I will talk about the challenges and the opportunities of opening accounts in new jurisdictions. I think it's a very hot topic nowadays. So what can we do? Very important. We need to do planning and some more planning. The second most important part is always you have to be up to date. How to get accepted, because that's one thing that you want to bank with someone, but obviously the bank needs to do their due diligence and get you on board as a new client. So always be prepared. I will talk about the challenges and the opportunities of opening accounts in new jurisdictions. I think it's a very hot topic nowadays, mainly when we are mentioning the visa applications or the relocation to new countries. This is a very, very interesting topic in my understanding because my clients are asking a lot about that. First of all, I would like to tell a couple of words about myself. My name is Viktoria Soltesz, and I actually started up in Cyprus many, many years ago as an accountant. So I still have my accounting and audit firm, Fiduciary Services, in Cyprus, which deals with tax optimization, structure building, company incorporation. So this is how I started. And later then I became involved more and more with the high-risk industries. And this was the reason that more and more clients had a problem with the banking facilities, with the bank accounts, with the payment providers. So that's when I decided to start PSP Angels around 3-4 years ago. And you can see the logo there as well. And around half a year ago, we started Oxygia Consulting with my business partner as well, which is focusing on the payment consulting aspects, specifically for the iGaming and gambling industry, because what we see that this industry is really coming up. The industry is really booming, but unfortunately the challenges are there as well when it comes to payments and banking. The European banks are more and more restrictive when it comes to this industry. I'm also the member of the director chambers in Malta, and I'm usually present in Cyprus, Malta, and Hungary. Originally, I'm Hungarian, so that's why we have a lot of clients from these jurisdictions. So we have these offices set up all over Europe. And a little information about myself, that in my free time I like to paint, and I have a cooking channel on Instagram, but this is not the subject for today's presentation. PSP is actually referring to the payment service provider. It's an abbreviation for the payment service providers. That's the name of the company, PSP Angels, because we are significantly dealing with payment service providers. So what do we do? PSP Angels, as I mentioned, it's a payment consulting firm, and we help online businesses significantly from the higher risk industries. For example, forex brokers, investment firms, as I mentioned previously. iGaming and gambling is a huge part of the clientele. Also, we help a lot for crypto companies, crypto exchanges, and everything else which has online presence and online businesses which are dealing with content or services, because for some reason banks consider them as high risk. So when it comes to education, travel, or any other content services, IT support, these fall under the high risk category. We help these companies to find the merchant accounts, banking facilities, and help them with finding the relevant payment service providers for them. So what's my purpose? My individual as Viktoria, what is my purpose, why I wake up every morning, and why I'm trying to help these businesses? Significantly is to save time. It's very, very important nowadays, because what we see that everything speed up so quickly. With these pandemics, everybody started to trade from their own bedroom, let's say. So the companies are moving and shifting towards the online presence, and the time is very, very precious. So when we can help clients to save time with the application, or even just to find the banking provider, or just answer questions which could take otherwise a long time to find out, That is my purpose, to actually save a significant amount of time for the clients, which would have been spent somewhere else, not very effectively. So yes, so optimize the risk. So when we are talking about high risk industries, obviously it's a very, very important task to give the give the information to the clients how to optimize their risk, because being in the high risk industry is not only the high risk for themselves, but also they sometimes need to deal with banking facilities which are high risk themselves, and also to reduce the cost, because when we are talking about banking, what we see nowadays, it's a significant part of many businesses. And if we are talking about individuals, also the cost can be very, very significant when we are talking about moving money from one account to another, mainly when we are moving money from one country to another, let alone talk about the restrictions as well. So I usually have this motto that I believe that everybody should spend and move their money however they please. This is how I imagine the world should be, and this is why I'm working towards too. So what is happening at the moment? Let's see the current situation. When we are talking about the current situation, we are forced to use banks, and we need to deal with these banks because we need to move the money around. We need to make sure that everything is obviously paid for electronically. And what we know is that the banking is a tool for government to regulate certain activities. So that's why the bank is asking a lot of questions when it comes to moving money. Why are you sending a large amount of money? If you're over a certain amount of threshold, they are doing a full KYC on you, a full diligence, because the banks will get the penalty in case we do something wrong. So the bank's responsibility to make sure that all the money movements which is happening at the given bank account is being checked by and is being monitored by the banks. And also the banks obviously are making us to pay for the higher fees of their compliance. So whoever is obviously need to check these details. Of course, there is a salary involved. There are technological tools, what they need to use, and it's not cheap. So it's very, very important that the bank is shifting over these costs to us, to the customers. So also, it's very important to mention that the banks started to charge negative interest and interest on deposits. So this is what we see nowadays in Europe. So instead of they are giving you money on your investment or your fixed deposits, they start to charge negative interest. That means that the more money you keep in the bank, the more you pay for the bank, unfortunately. And of course, this is something that we need to consider as well when we are setting up bank accounts or when we are planning the money movements on different accounts. Also, we need to understand that the majority of the banking relationship is still built on trust, because it's very, very subjective. Whatever is good enough for one bank, it might not be good enough for another bank. And this is very, very important to mention because this determines that the prices are very, very subjective. So one risk department can say that you are scored whatever 7 out of 10 on the risk scale. The other one will say that you're scored 5 out of the 10. And obviously these are the basic information what the compliance use to determine the fee, that how much will the banking cost to you. Obviously, what we need to do is that we need to make the banks our best friend, and it's very, very important, because if the banks are our best friends, then most probably we can count on much better fees and much better terms and conditions. So where are the banks going wrong? Let me ask a question. What happens when your life faces a new country? It could happen for multiple reasons. You either move to a new country, you are getting a new citizenship, as we mentioned here with the visa programs, or even so simple investment like buying a new property abroad. What is the common in all the below scenarios? Well, obviously, you need to have a local bank account. And why do we need to have a local bank account? First of all, there are some benefits of having a local account. First of all, when you're paying local taxes, when you need to pay the local contractors, when you make any amendments, for example, in your new house, or you pay any kind of other assistant, for example, local lawyers or local tax advisors, you need to have a local bank account just for the simple purpose is that it speeds up the transfer of the money. It's actually more common to use these local bank accounts, the local payment methods, and of course to use the local currency as well. And it's not that important, for example, in Europe, because in Europe, obviously, everybody is using euro, but you can actually spare a lot of money if you're opening a local bank account, for example, when you are buying a property in other jurisdictions. Also very important to mention that when you're opening a local bank account, you have an opportunity to diversify your assets. And diversifying your assets, spreading it out to multiple providers has a significant importance, which is the reduced risk. Because once you have multiple bank accounts, you can actually make a more informative decision how to move the money around and how to make sure that the amount of risk that you bear on keeping your assets in multiple accounts are actually significantly lower than just keep parking a lot of money on one bank account. Because what's happening if that bank, for some reason, either freezes your account or there's trouble with that bank? We have seen a million times some unfortunate examples on that. The main example is that the banking crisis, what happened back in the day in Cyprus. So what can we do? Very important. We need to do planning and some more planning. So always think ahead when it comes to opening new bank accounts. What are the different opportunities and obviously what are the different threats? So let's go through what are the things that, in my opinion, is very, very important to check. First of all, what is your current portfolio? What is your current assets, your wealth, and obviously how many accounts you have? What are the current situation? Who are your current payment providers, banks, or any other way how you are keeping your money at the moment? Of course, have a chat with your tax guy and revise all the tax implications which are involved in keeping your money in multiple jurisdictions, in multiple providers. And of course, you need to understand that what are the costs that you're paying at the moment. Once you understand what you have at the moment, and once you can have a full understanding of what is the current state and what is the current scenario, you can always make an informative decision and highlight all that risk areas with some payment professional help or even alone. It's just using common sense that what are the higher risk areas. So for example, when you have a lot of money on one account and you have no money on another account, then you can clearly see that maybe shifting over a couple of percentage of that wealth could actually reduce the risk what you are bearing now, having all this amount of money on one bank account. And also you need to see that which bank account should be the primary and which should be the secondary when you're comparing the banking costs, obviously, to see that how much does it cost to you now, right now, to bank with Bank A, or what are the opportunities to shift over your assets to Bank B, for example. Also, you need to think about what are your future cash flow expectations, where you expect the money to come from. When we are talking about, for example, a foreign investment, how does it affect your cash flow? What is the amount that you expect? How much? How often? What currency is going to be that? Because the whole goal of understanding your current situation is to make sure that you increase the transfer speed, you increase the speed when you're paying any suppliers, or you increase the speed of how you get your own money at the end of the day. And also it's very, very important to see that what are the opportunities, how to improve the overall banking portfolio, what you have, right? Because when we are talking about multiple bank accounts, we are talking about the banking portfolio. So it's the whole goal to improve how the money moves in, again, what I mentioned, it, how often, what currency, and what is the risk versus the cost, what you are bearing right now of handling different liquid assets. The whole goal is obviously to reduce the risk and the cost overall in all your banking portfolio products, and make sure that you're creating different backup plans and multiple what-if scenarios, because what we know nowadays is nothing is certain and everything is changing all the time. So it's very, very important to focus on how we can improve. And needless to say, banks are always coming up with new products and new services. Your assets are always changing. I mean, obviously, if you're doing a good job, that means that the monies keep flowing in, and maybe you're changing your suppliers, you're finding new ways of optimizing your cost. So you always need to consider what is the best case scenario for your given circumstances. So whatever was perfect, let's say half a year ago, it might not be the perfect, the most cost effective and the least risky scenario for your banking portfolio as of today. So it needs constant revision and constant understanding of how we can improve that further with the new banking products. So how we can apply to new banking products? What is the way that we can acquire new banking connections? First of all, the most important thing, that you need to think like a bank. And what I can see on my clients, that this is harder than it sounds, because thinking like a bank requires some kind of compliance knowledge. So if you have nothing to do with finance, or if you have nothing to do with banking, it's very, very easy to say the wrong answers to the right questions what the bank is asking, and unfortunately waste a lot of time, because at the end of the day, we need to please the bank. We need to answer all the information what they need for the compliance. So that's very, very important, that to understand that the power position is still in the bank's hand. So first thing, how to think like a bank is always evaluate the current setup from the banking perspective. What are the risk areas from the banking perspective? Do you have any kind of cash assets? Do you have any kind of higher risk assets in your portfolio when it comes to, for example, jewelry or art or any other liquid asset which might not be on your bank account, but obviously you need to put down in your tax return, and it affects your overall wealth portfolio. Very important, you need to understand that the bank needs to understand the flow of funds with clear explanations. The clear explanation cannot be something that I just gave them money on a gift, because obviously it's a bit, right, why would I give gifts to someone? You always need to clarify how the money flows around, and you always need to justify it with different invoices, different agreements. Obviously, your accountant is your best friend here who can help you out, but you as the owner of these assets, you always need to understand and think like a bank before the question even arises, how to clarify the flow of funds with as clear explanations as possible. And also, it's always good to have a local address, because the question could arise that why do you have an account in Panama when you have no connection to Panama? So for example, European banks are quite particular about having a local address when you want to open a local account. Obviously, when you're acquiring any new citizenship or you're acquiring a new property, that definitely helps. But if you don't have a local address, that could be one of the main questions, that why do you want to bank with us when you have no connection to our bank? The second most important part is always you have to be up to date. You need to understand what are the products which are available for you. What is the unique selling point of that payment provider, of that bank, e-money institution, payment institution, or whatever kind of service that you're about to acquire. You need to understand that there are different customs in different countries. A very, very easy example, when you are going to Cyprus, the locals always try to use JCC Smart. This is the best way to actually register, pay your utility bills, and pay your invoices. Obviously, if you're not in Cyprus, you don't know what is JCC Smart. Why would you even need to know that? But the customs in Cyprus tells you that this is actually one of the main alternative payment methods what the locals use to actually increase the speed of the payment when they are paying utility bills or even phone. When it comes to Malta, many people are using Revolut. So when you're trying to pay your utility bill, for example, on the drop-down list, on the payment methods, it even says that Revolut, for example. So it's very, very beneficial for you to actually open a Revolut account and pay the utility bills in Malta from Revolut because they have a direct connection. So those are the different customs in different countries, what you need to understand to gain some kind of competitive advantage and spare a lot of time and obviously maybe some money as well on your outgoing payments. And also, you need to see what is the difference between the e-money institutions and the traditional banks. Do you want to bank online using your mobile phone, or you are still trusting the traditional banks who can take a longer time to open an account, who can be a bit slower, mainly when we are talking about Cyprus and Malta and all different countries in the Mediterranean, like Greece, for example. These countries still use a lot of outdated banking methods, just to say the least. So I know that the banks sometimes they are still asking me to fax things over, and I thought that the fax is out of fashion 20 years ago. There are new players on the market, which are the FX providers who are aiming to make money out of foreign exchange conversions. So if you have, for example, a euro account and you want to send money to someone in dollars, those are the kind of providers that you might want to look out. So if you have a banking portfolio with multiple currencies in multiple jurisdictions and you're doing a lot of foreign exchange, it's not a bad idea to have a look at these guys, because these specialized specifically on exchange currency cost reduction. So it might save a lot of money to you to use FX providers other than your traditional banks. And of course, you always need to see in case that there is any cryptocurrency involved, because the crypto regulation is changing all the time, and you don't want to send money to one of your accounts which is coming from a crypto exchange, for example, and freeze your whole account for obvious reasons. So you need to see that what are the crypto-friendly banks, what is the current crypto regulation in certain jurisdictions. It's changing, so if you have a significant amount of crypto-related investments or assets, then definitely, again, either your accountant or tax advisor is the one who can give you more information on that. And of course, we need to mention the alternative payment methods, as I mentioned, for example, in Cyprus, the JCC Smart or any other kind of local methods, which could be very popular in certain jurisdictions. Keep your ears open and always try to see that what could be the alternative to cash or bank transfer in the current country. Of course, take advantage. You always need to understand how to take advantage of the current scenario and how can you take advantage of the banking facilities. What products does the bank offer which can benefit you? You would be surprised that banks are no longer just banks. Banks are investment advisors. They are taking care of your insurance. They can help you with risk management. They can give you tax advice. They can give you any kind of competitive rates on different other payment products. So always keep your eyes open just to see that what are the products at the moment which you can benefit from, and try to obviously take advantage of that. Of course, very important, what are the different terms and conditions? Because fees are just one thing, but how long does it take for your fixed deposit? This depends on the banking. This depends obviously on their products and services. How long do they hold on to your money? What is the currencies that they offer? What are the other different certain terms and conditions that might not be fees related, but they can benefit you greatly? And it's very, very important that your banker could actually give local free investment or tax advice. I'm not saying that we have to listen to them, because obviously that's why we have investment advisors and tax advisors, but they can actually mention something which could open up a door to investigate something further. There are a lot of important information that you can get from your banker, and it's always good to take advantage of that. Of course, as we mentioned, that there could be any kind of other perks other than just a free coffee at the bank when you're visiting them. So keep your eyes out for these products, because this can save you a lot of money and a lot of hassle on the long term. Right, very important. Obviously, everybody knows that, so I'm just stating the obvious. But the overdraft versus the return on investment could be very important. So you always need to balance out your portfolio, that you don't have a lot of hanging assets, liquid assets at the given time, not only because it's very risky, but also the money is only good when the money is working for you. So this is something that you need to discuss with your investment advisor, obviously. But for this, you always need to have a good global advisor, but try to find someone locally who knows about the little important informations and always up to date with the current market situation locally. How to get accepted, because that's one thing that you want to bank with someone, but obviously the bank needs to do their due diligence and get you on board as a new client. So always be prepared. Get the documents ready, make sure that all the forms are filled, and arrive with all the important information before they start to ask for it. Because what I see in my clients when we're opening the bank account, that this process can take a long, long time, just because one document is missing, or we didn't think about that we need the very obvious things, for example, a passport copy. Be prepared. Try to find out what do you need before they are asking about it. Of course, very important, be quick, because many times banking applications can hang on to months, and months turn into half a year, and then the documents expire and you have to start everything from the beginning. So once you start something, try to finalize as quickly as possible, so the market conditions don't change, your conditions don't change, fees don't change, and obviously the documents won't get expired. Try to always negotiate. The first offer might not be the final offer, and it's very, very important, because many clients just take it as it is. Try to add a little perks for yourself, or just negotiate a couple of pips down, and very important to make them compete for you. So try to see that how to make the providers compete for you, instead of you are trying to compete for the banks. Highlight what is the benefit for the bank to have you as a client. Obviously highlight overall the portfolio, and highlight that you are actually not as high risk as they might think at the beginning. Once you have different offers on the table, you need to evaluate, and you need to see that what are the best offers for you.
Victoria, let me ask you to summarize and finalize your speech, because we only have 2 minutes for you now.
All right, no worries. So how to evaluate the offers? You need to see that how old is the bank and what is the current client portfolio. You need to see that how safe is the bank, then obviously you want to open, and how quickly they can open the account. And always ask that what is your local compliances use, what is your tax advisor or local accountant is recommending to use. Of course, you always need to balance your banking portfolio, which bank is the primary and which one shall be the backup. As we mentioned, always spread the risk. And of course, banks are still working with humans, so there is a very important human element for that as well. Always see the different investment and credit options. As we mentioned, those can be make or break the deal. And I brought you a quote. If you owe the bank $100, that's your problem. But if you owe the bank 100 million, that's the bank's problem. So this is something to think about, because if you have a significant asset portfolio, then you've got a good leverage and you've got a good opportunity to actually get yourself better terms and conditions, because the bank should be your alliance. And if you're playing your cards right, then you can benefit on the long term. You can reach me at any time on LinkedIn or the email address or in Skype. And thank you very much for your attention. And sorry again for the technical difficulties. Thank you.
Viktoria, thank you so much.